In the late 70s, Marvel Comics made a push into movies and television, with one major success and a number of near misses, like William Tell's Stepchildren. One of those near misses was a groovy take on a magical Marvel character, Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange, created by Steve Ditko and Stan Lee, first appeared in comics in 1963 in a book entitled, appropriately enough, Strange Tales. Dr. Stephen Strange was an injured surgeon who searched for the Ancient One in order to learn about magic. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he's played by Benedict Cumberbatch, but before his self-titled debut film in 2016, there had been an earlier attempt to bring the character to life, but one that failed to cast a spell over television audiences.
I think it's fine for doctors and nurses to fall in love.
Falling in love wasn't the question, it was making love.
Oh.
After already having brought to life TV versions of Spider-Man and The Incredible Hulk, Doctor Strange was up next with a 1978 telemovie called, funnily enough, Doctor Strange. Created by writer Philip De Geer, Doctor Strange was a 90-minute television movie for CBS that was intended as a pilot for a weekly series. Dr. Stephen Strange is a psychiatric resident who is very quickly established as someone screwing everything in sight, like that one screwdriver in your toolbox with the worn-down head.
Lipstick on your cheek. And I can smell her perfume. It's not very expensive perfume.
That's because I gave it to her.
Meanwhile, Morgan Le Fay has been tasked with defeating the good sorcerer Lindmer. He's actually a sorcerer supreme, which means he's top dog in terms of sorcery hierarchy. Though he does tend to work out of an office in his attic, so maybe the sorcerer game is not something you get into for the loot. Lindmer feels the time is near when he will have to bring Strange up to speed on this whole magic bizzo.
The Enchantress, Queen of the Sorcerers, the Dark Queen.
Morgan Le Fay has 3 days to deal with Lindmer, or failing that, convert his soon-to-be apprentice Stephen Strange.
Destroy the old man before the powers are past.
The barriers are crumbling. Morgan is to be the first of the Dark Ones to cross the threshold.
Morgan briefly takes over the body of a student, Clea, in order to try and kill Lindmer, but he survives unharmed, possibly because he tagged in a stunt double at the last minute. Clea's lost her memory, ending up in hospital under the care of Dr. Stephen Strange, who's unpopular with his co-workers after 15 nurses mysteriously gave birth to babies with mustaches in the same month. Strange has a dream flashing back to a possessed Clea trying to kill John Mill's stunt double when the man himself turns up and uses his powers to see Doctor Strange.
Visiting hours are from 3 till 6. May I come in?
Call me old-fashioned, but should I ever need, psychiatric help again, I wouldn't be filled with confidence with someone called Doctor Strange. Lindmer finally lets Strange in on the secret that Strange has secret powers.
You've been gifted with a clear mind and a love for humanity, hence your choice to become a doctor. Also, some latent talents, which even you are not aware of yet.
But he's a rational man and doesn't seem too keen on admitting magic is real. A quick trip to the astral plane to rescue Clea's mind, and Strange seems to have at least accepted the possibility, but he's not interested in pursuing magic as a career, despite having the correct facial hair.
I don't want anything more to do with it.
Morgan Le Fay zones in on Stephen Strange, not as a rival, but as a potential date.
Who are you?
Morgan, you can call me.
The word is never used, but there's a lot of sex alluded to in Doctor Strange. Strange and nurses, Strange and Clea, and almost a first date for Strange and Morgan. Doctor Strange as the name may suit the character's premise, but Dr. Upright Rampenstag works too. Once the magic is let loose, the story does get a little difficult to pass, like trying to catch a raindrop in a hailstorm. After 2 very talky first acts, the budget's obviously been saved up for the final act. Stephen, with less training than a Walmart door greeter, is now able to shoot and deflect magic beams. I mean, technically I'm able to shoot and deflect magic beams. Okay, it's not actually laser beams, more realistically Nerf frisbees, but in the right light.
Thrice you had the opportunity to slay him, and thrice you stayed your hand. Why?
I am still a woman. And the man attracted me.
Well, it's thirsty work. Her employer is unimpressed, which is ironic since the stop-motion work here is itself unimpressive. While it's generally well made, visually interesting and full of good performances, it doesn't make a lick of sense most of the time. Like someone who's been testing crash helmets in a part-time crash helmet testing gig over Christmas to make some extra cash in order to fund a vacation and a sudden increase in the need for industrial strength aspirin. Steven travels along the astral plane with some groovy slit scan effects, but his safety harness is hidden about as well as the option to cancel a subscription. Without training, he seems to do a pretty decent job as a master magician. You know, I'm not trained in magic at all, but I think I could work out how to saw someone in half. But without a few hints, the second part of the trick would be much more difficult. Linma's friend and valet Wong is there, but he doesn't really do all that much. Clea's amnesia hasn't affected her libido, and Stephen Strange, having been her doctor, doesn't seem to impact all that much on their relationship. I mean, ethically it's a grey area, like the winner of the 1987 Chernobyl Lawn of the Year.
Are you asking for one?
Would you like one?
Peter Hooten's Disco Doctor Strange is an idealistic doctor, the sort who butts heads against the more experienced staff, who are of course relatively incompetent compared to Doctor Strange. John Mills appears in an attempt to class up the joint, but he seems to have a tenuous grasp on the material. Clyde Kusatsu does his best with the ultra-slim material for Wong. Eddie Benton does the sort of role that all 20-something actresses would land in this era, the love interest for the lead. And as the character who spends most of the time not knowing what's going on, she at least doesn't have to fake it like everyone else.
Of course, it's really dumb.
Of course, Eddie Benton is better known by another stage name, Anne-Marie Martin. But it's Jessica Walter who really steals the show as Morgan Le Fay. She's so utterly believable as someone not necessarily super evil, just trying to please her master so he doesn't make her old. The film ends with a tag scene setting her up as an ongoing foe for a continuing series, if one was to eventuate. Writer-producer Philip De Geer also directed the pilot, and visually it's rather better than the standard for a TV movie at the time. Despite being set in New York, it's clearly filmed in Los Angeles, mostly on the Universal backlot. The Bleecker Street residence seems a bit cramped for such a mighty sorcerer, but its weird look is cool. On the other hand, if you were looking for the lair of a powerful wizard, this is obviously the place. It's as obvious as the last piece of a jigsaw puzzle. Another standout element was the groovy, progressive rock psychedelic soundtrack, and it really fits the show very well. On its original screening on CBS, the movie rated really poorly, and any thoughts of a continuing series ended there and then. De Geer would write for a lot more TV shows, but as a creator his most notable success was the still-to-come 80s detective series Simon & Simon. The late 60s and early 70s had seen a resurgence in interest in occult, gothic horror and supernatural themes, but that interest had petered out by the late 70s. Perhaps Doctor Strange might have found a more receptive TV audience 6 or 7 years earlier, or maybe better in the 90s, once genre television had more or less moved off the major networks. The 1978 Doctor Strange is an odd bird, since I can't see this appealing all that much to kids. It definitely feels something skewed towards older viewers. But at the time, I don't think it really occurred to people at networks that adults would like a supernatural fantasy series. It's a little all over the place, but the fact that this didn't go to a series was actually a shame. It's a worthy addition to the vault of almost. The following year, there would be not one but 2 telemovies attempting to bring to life another classic Marvel character.
But he's actually a Dutch physician named Van Hooten.
But they didn't have the same verve as this one-and-done version of Doctor Strange. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below or check out some of our other videos.
His aura protected me.